Stupid beard. I get ladies, gentlemen, dragons, warlocks, all of you out there, because I have crowds of warlocks. And I've got all sorts of fans. Now, how are y'all tonight? I hope you're doing wonderful. I'm doing good. It's another wonderful day here with you guys, and I'm so happy to have my good friend, a guy that has supported my channel since I had like a half of a subscriber, only a half. He was on my side. So, Mike Mollman, how are you tonight, my friend?
I am doing well.
So good to hear that.
This burden of a book is finally out in the public, and I don't have to deal with it directly now.
Mike, I have to tell you, you're so critical on yourself, and you're such a good dude. You do good stuff. You're a good writer. You're a good human. You gotta quit that, man. You're way too hard on yourself. You're a lovely guy.
I cannot accept compliments. I will fend them off like a ninja. But if you say mean things about me, that I went to Catholic school for 12 years. Okay, I don't do compliments. I only do critique, and harsh critique is my favorite. That's what makes me warm and fuzzy.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'll do that just because I'm a kind person, but you will probably continue to get compliments because I'm a genuine person, and I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. But man, I'm so happy you're here. You've come to me with a bunch of good ideas in the past, and I knew that when this book dropped, we talked a little bit about it the last time you were on, but this is the real deal. We're diving in. I'm gonna pick his brain a little bit. We're gonna learn some more about the book that he's about to drop, which is the fourth book of Protector of Pratani.
Yep.
Okay, I thought I was right. I always get those mixed up. Sometimes I'm like A instead of the, or we instead of you. But I'm glad that I had it. So tell us the name of book 4. The name, and then kind of like a series overview.
Okay, the book 4 is Desperate Dispatches, and because of computer problems, I haven't been able to upload this yet, the manual. So this is literally just a sheet of paper, but that's what it looks like. Dragon.
It's an exciting sheet of paper.
So that is the book. It is the 4th book in my planned 7-book series. Originally, it's going to be a 4-book series, and then I realized that I could not complete what I need to complete unless I did really, really long books, which I don't do. So I was like, okay, we're adding 3 more books to the series. There's now 7, not 4. So we are at the halfway point. And for this book, I've told people this is the last of Expanding the World, because one, I'm a map person. I have to have a map if I'm going to read a fantasy story. I mean, it's mandatory.
Sure.
And what I hate is when you get a map and you're like, okay, this big expanse of land and everything takes place in this city and this city, and all the rest of the map is left unexplored for the whole series. And I'm like, why did you not just make 2 cities next to each other as a map and be done with it? Now I have questions and you never answer. So I decided I want to explore as much of this map as I possibly could while still telling one coherent tale. So, so that's why the first 4 books, I'm expanding the world. After this, it will tighten up and the central conflict will take over and we march towards all-out war.
All-out, full-blown war.
And there's the man. I'm looking forward to talking to him Thursday.
He's the lovely, wonderful, incredibly talented author of Lost Souls, which, guys, if you haven't picked it up, what are you doing? Yes, thank you for being here, Ryan. You're the man. He's always here. He's one of those community guys, and he's the kind of support that you hope that you have eventually. It's like he's got that, and I absolutely love it. So thank you for being here all the time, man. You really show a lot of support and in the best way. Tim McKay is another wonderful guy just like that. Shows so much support. He's always here. Another distant rows of them. John A. Douglas is the same.
Yep. He texted me on Twitter, and I had to go find some 20-somethings I work with. Can you please interpret this? I don't know what this means.
Translate for me.
Yes.
Sorry that I'm picking my beard. I got a bunch of knots in them for some reason. When you get the length, man, it just doesn't come easy like you go to like comb it or something, and you end up like, oh, you got like 4 combs stuck in it. Anyway, Jim
I make
McCleary.
beard oil for my day job, right?
So I thought it was just shampoo. I didn't know that.
Not shampoo, lotion, sunscreens. The only thing I will not do color cosmetics because I do not know a thing about it and I don't want to learn. But,
so if for the people who don't know what you do, me being privileged enough to know your awesome job, tell everybody.
I was a chemist. Now I'm a formulator. I don't actually do any chemical reactions. I'm just mix and match. Think of me as a bartender, but I make skincare products. Work for a large company. It's probably about the same size as Dow or DuPont, but it's a German company, so no one's ever heard of it. Evonik is the name. And we have a pretty big catalog in personal care. So my job is literally to make different formulations highlighting our products, day after day.
He passed organic chemistry.
Love
if you've ever taken organic chemistry, as I have, and failed it quite miserably, and I tried, guys, it's difficult.
Oh.
So it's a really awesome job, I think. It's fun. I didn't know that you did beard oil.
Yes, I will be sending you something when I send you Desperate Dispatches.
So excited, man.
So
Fear the Beard, my guy Jim McCleary, he's another one of those wonderful support community guys, man. He came up with my slogan, Fear the Beard.
Nice.
So, all right, so let's dive into it. Would you tell us the names of the first 3 books? And did you go into a little bit of a series overview?
I will. Okay. So the first book is Becoming a Druid. Main character is Grommy. He's a druid apprentice, and he's going on his quest to become a member of the order. Now, this should be a, yay, I graduated high school type of moment. But Grommy's in his early 20s, and he makes frequent, really poor decisions. So one thing after another happens, and it just gets worse and worse. And actually, because of his quest, that starts us down the path. The first domino's been kicked, and by the end, there's going to be all-out war in Book 7 because of things that were instigated in Book 1 by Grommy, unbeknownst to him. And I got an unbeknownst in there. All righty. So that is Book 1. So then I wrote Book 2, which was To Speak with Elders. And then I realized that that's not going to be Book 2. That's now going to be Book 3 because no one that I know of besides me is dumb enough to try to write an epic fantasy story in first-person present tense with a single POV. It's a challenge, especially with Grommy being a druid. He's not going to go into cities. He's told me so. I've begged and pleaded with him because it makes my plot work better, and he's just said no. So then I did Sins and Sorrows, which was the book that came out now between the 2 books, which I'm now rebranding as Book 2 because Amazon doesn't let you have half books. So no one knew that existed. But that was actually 2 side characters who meet Grommy and don't die, which is a feat, just, warning you. So they each get their own side adventure, probably like 100, 120 pages. And they can go to places that Grommy never, ever would. Actually, Sins and Sorrows, both of them go to Ynys Luco, which is the Isle of Black, which is where all the Sorum are, the mind readers, which no one but mind readers are going to go there because, they'll just steal from you blind and you'll never know, and you'll smile at them as they, because they're mind readers. They can control what you do. And
that would be so bad. Like if that was for real, if you're walking through Walmart, people, if they knew my thoughts walking through Walmart, I would get punched every time.
So, it lets me go to other places on the map because, again, I want to fill out the map. So that's Sins and Sorrows. Then To Speak with Elders is Grommy's nephew, Feagle. He is a Sorum, so he can control minds to some extent. He's not the most powerful, but he can do it. And he wants to be a druid, but they're one of the druid's enemies. So the council's like, absolutely not. Grommy kind of throws his weight and says, you have to. He's my nephew. I can speak for him. Bards and books. Usman, you are awesome.
He is.
So they're like, fine, we'll give you an impossible quest. And if you 2 solve it, he can be a druid. And so then that takes him down the unlikely path of multiple quests. I even in there at one point was like, another quest. But that is To Speak with Elders. I have 3 more books planned. The next book is going to be, oh, sorry, I didn't talk. Book 4 is Desperate Dispatches. So this is, I kind of split. There's 2 stories that are written on Iriu, which is Ireland, or looks suspiciously like Ireland at least. And then there's 2 which take place on Brittany, which is England. So I kind of split up the story half and half. And yeah, actually one of the characters actually ends up going to Spain, which when I write my next series, it's going to be an Iron Age Spain. So I kind of want to taste what is that like. So there's that.
That's exciting.
So yeah, like I said, this expands the map almost all the way. There's just a tiny bit more in the next book that'll be, but otherwise, all the pieces on the table, and now it's going to be time to start maneuvering them.
I think a lot of authors, you read a book, and then most of the time, if there's a map, that's before you start reading. And me, I don't necessarily study the map as I'm going along this journey, and most of the time it's because I don't have to. They only visit a very small part of this map, and I'm not an author, so I don't know this from experience in writing. But as a reader, I think it would be really cool to know that throughout this series, I'm going to go here, 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 at least hear about it and have a little bit of an experience there. So I think a lot of people enjoy that quality of your books.
So, and I will tell you, for this book, I actually, because 4 different stories, 4 different people, I actually have city maps for the primary city that the thing takes place in. So I've actually had city maps made for all these places, because I have to try to imagine it, and I don't want to be like, wait, it took them 10 minutes to get over here, but then it took them 2 to get back. So I have a map. I look at them like, okay, this is how they go. This is what they see. And
that's deep.
And Jim, to answer your question, no, I have never played D&D in my life. I've never had Critical Mass to start. I told myself for my birthday I was going to go to my local comic book store and play, and I was like, no, I had to finish this book. So I was like, as soon as this book gets published, I'm going to go. Well, it's getting published today, so I guess I have to go to that comic book store now, but I do want to play D&D.
So you just gave me a great idea, because one of the things that me and the 4 Beardsmen are doing with our podcast is they're going to be teaching me, along with anybody else that's going to be there, if they haven't played and don't know, the whole spiel. They're gonna kind of bring me into it. I've never played. I've never rolled a single die, nothing.
So I always tell people I'm D&D adjacent, because growing up in the 80s and 90s, I read, 150, 200 between Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms, which are all put out by the D&D people. So I'm aware. I know hit points. I know what they are. I know what dice you roll when, but I've never actually played. So
that's much more than I like. I got lost in the middle of what you were saying, but what I do know is how willing to learn I am, because who doesn't want another, especially when you get to use your imagination, right? And then I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok or Instagram Reels, or it could be a number, maybe YouTube as well, the shorts. There's these guys that get together and they play D&D, but what this one guy has done is something I would absolutely strive to do. He's converted a whole room. He's got fog machines. He's got lights. Awesome. He's got real weapons hanging off the walls.
He's a bachelor, isn't he?
No. His wife must be. Yeah, dude. He's got a wife and kids. I'm like, I need to learn the skills that you have, because there's no way. Not right now.
I will tell you, last year I was at a AuthorCon, and at the panel there, people are like, how do you, get your creativity? How do you do? And every single one on that panel, except for me, said, oh, I play D&D. I don't use exactly what happens, but it, gets the gears turning. And, I'm like, well, this happened. If we just change, but they're like, all the, creativity comes from me playing D&D. And I'm like, that's why this is so hard at times, because I don't do that. And you can kind of let, other people help you with your imagination. So that's one of the things I think I need to. Books with Bengus, another one of my favorite people. Yeah, as he screams about my books so often, I'm just like, oh God, stop!
You guys did a wonderful interview on Bald&Balding, which is your YouTube channel. If you guys haven't subscribed, you got to do that. They do some wonderful, amazing stuff. They meaning him, and I feel like I'm going to get his name right. Roe.
Yeah, Rosaire. He goes by Roe usually.
Roe.
I always tell people that if you're old enough, you'll get this. I am the Ed McMahon to his Johnny Carson.
Yep.
So I just sit over and go like, yes. And he is the one who actually conducts the interview because he's been doing this for 30 years. So
I have to say, though,
it looks polished. It's because of him, and then just wild interjections by me every once in a while.
You guys have great chemistry, though. I went as a guest on his channel, and it was so much fun because Roe is like you said, he's got the questions. He's kind of like the structure, but then Mike brings in these parts that just make you like stop answering questions and just laugh for like 30 seconds straight, and it's great. The chemistry is there. I love it. Yeah, and I think that it's a wonderful thing.
I will have to say shout out to your people because you brought them when we interviewed you. And at one point, Rose like, Mike, do you have anything? I'm like, shut up. I'm reading the comments.
Yeah.
Because it was rocking that night. It was great.
It's so much fun. And it took a while to get there. It doesn't just happen, man. Like you're doing wonderful. And BellTube, I mean, oh, sorry, no context there. A lot of the context is like between chatters, and I just still haven't like focused my eye to that. So I apologize. He did have a wonderful comment here, though. Oh man, I would probably pick that character just because I feel like I've always wanted to just be a barbarian for a day, just to kind of cause a little chaos. I also think of like a caveman. I want to hit somebody with a stump. Or like just like a log, not a dead one, like one that I actually had to fight for, one that's not going to snap in half, but then retire. But through D&D, I can make seasons of this. Yes. And on a serious note, so many people, authors that I've spoken with, use D&D to influence their writing, and that makes so much sense. You go through these different situations, and that can only spark incredible amounts of situations you can put into a book. So I'm excited for it.
So, and I will say these 4 novellas that I have, I wrestled with them. It took me 13 months, which seems unbearably long. But at the end, when I was doing my last edits, and I was like, you know what? I worked on these enough that I like all 4 of these stories because like June or July is like, this one's boring. That one, it doesn't have, has plot holes and I finally, the last read through, I was like, you know what? I like these. This is probably some of my best writing because, I think I get better every time. At least I hope. No one's told me otherwise, but we'll see. But
so what do you mean? You're going to be coming out with novellas soon? Is that something you're going to start putting into this?
Kay is here. Woohoo! So this book that came out is a collection of 4 novellas. And when I was writing them, I was like, oh God, should I just drop this one because I don't think it's good? It's boring. There's not, and I worked through it and I finally was like, you know what? All 4 of these, I like all 4 of them. They're solid stories. I'm happy with all of them. And I do not say that all the time hopefully by the end I'm saying that, but yeah, it was,
if you have in common with what most humans, especially me, I know I do, we're very self-critical.
Oh, yeah.
And that it takes time to kind of view that in a constructive way. Because a lot of the things, I remember going bowling, and I'm terrible at bowling. And I would just get so mad. And now it's like I can go have fun and still suck. So it's an acquired skill. Yeah. And one that isn't easily learned. So if you get there, that's special. So before you started writing in Protectors of Patani series, what was it that sparked your mind and your imagination to do so? Any inspirations that you had to start this journey?
Sure. So, I'm an author, so I have not 1 but 2 origin stories. So one's kind of funny and one's kind of sad. Which one would you like?
This is your show.
Okay, I'll start off overarching. I did not want to be a writer, did not, think I could be a writer. I always tell people I never took English 101 or 102. Mm-hmm. So I'm just waiting for someone to knock on my door and say, I'm sorry, you do not have the chops to do this. You must stop. Because, my qualification is I read a lot of books in the 80s and 90s that were fantasy. That's it.
That's a lot.
But I did not know I was practicing for yet another career. But anyway, so I never really want to be a writer. Going on about my life. Just FYI, I've never married. There's no significant other. I have one dog now, and I'm fine. I'm pretty much a hermit. But I would always call my mom every night. And in 2015, she passed away. And my dad had passed away 10 years before. And I was just like, if I have a heart attack, they won't know until I start to smell. I mean, I was like, wow, who is there for me? And I was like, no one. So, that's when it's like, well, if you want to have better friends, you should probably be a better friend. And I started doing stuff like that. And about 2 years in, I realized I just slept walk through 2 years. I went to work, I came home, just going through the paces, biding time, not doing anything. And I was like, something has to change. And then this is when my funny story takes over. I was sitting there, and the woman at work who I know, she said, Mike, would you mind going to an author signing? Because she works for Juniors Women's Club or whatever, some charity. And, she's like, the daughter of one of the women in the club, she's coming up to the local library. It's a last minute thing. We're afraid no one's going to show up, and it'll be embarrassing if no one shows up to this author to do her book reading and signing. And I was like, I'm there. I have never, ever, gone to a book signing. I've read, over 1,000 books, probably 2,000 books. Never, ever met an author. I was like, I'm there. My mistake was I did not ask any questions. So I show up that next morning, and Junior League, El Montague, he's on top of it. But anyway,
support him.
So I show up, and this woman has written a love triangle for a young adult love triangle where there's a girl who's trying to pick between two biologically enhanced perfect male specimens. And I'm like, you could not get further from what I want to read. I have zero interest in this. And so I'm looking around, and I'm like, oh my God, I am the only male in this room. And there were mothers who brought their 12 and 14-year-old daughters. Now, as the middle-aged white man who lives alone in a quiet neighborhood who keeps to himself and neighbors say they hardly ever talk to him, I know what else is attached to that. No. So I'm like, oh my God, if I sit in the back row, they're going to be staring at me like, is he staring at my daughter? I'm like, okay, I can't leave because Angela, my friend, would just never let me live that down. So that was not an option. So I'm like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to go sit in the front row. So I sat front and center. And this woman did her whole, spiel. And she goes, are there any questions? Which is kind of silly because no one had read the book. So, so I did the one thing that I've now learned that authors hate, although I'm indifferent, but is I'm like, how'd you publish your book? What do you do? What's the process? How do you, tell me how to do exactly what you did. I don't care about your work. Just, fill me in. And she did because there were no other questions. And then afterwards I was like, I'm going to have to buy this stupid book. You can't go to an author signing, ask 27 questions and then not buy the stupid thing. So I bought it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it home. I'm going to read it, and I'm just going to make fun of her because it has to be terrible because the idea is horrible and not, at least for me. So I take it home and I read it, and I'm like, the writing's not bad. The story I have zero interest in. I kind of hope they'd all die in a car crash, but unfortunately, it didn't end at page 72. And I read it, and afterwards I was like, I can do that. So I said, well, I have time. So I started writing, and writing is very, very therapeutic. El Montague, oh my God, you're going to be banned from Bald&Balding if you don't stop this. No, you will not. So I started writing, and my first book that I wrote that is still sitting on my hard drive was a boy and his father had a spaceship on a dystopian story on Mars, and then the father is murdered, and the boy is left all to himself to try to figure out how to live life and how to, move forward. And I'm like, and I got to like the 7th time I was editing this, I'm like, Jesus, I'm telling my story in a fictional sense. I did not realize this, but I am actually the main character here and trying to figure out what to do when, your support system is gone.
Ooh.
And I was like, man, that's crazy. And so then I
have to write that.
Well, that's what I'm going to do next. It's going to get changed a lot, but yeah, I mean, I like the plot. I was like, it cut a little too close to home. Is a little too Mike. So
Okay.
we're going to make some changes and try to make it a little more exciting. But yeah, that was because I went to that stupid author signing that, oh God.
That we're talking.
Yeah. That now we're talking. So,
I dig that.
Strange, left turns.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about a lot of those things in our lives that we pick up, whether it's even just where we live or who we marry or the stores we go to or anything that we hold trivial, it's usually got one of those amazing stories. Like I live where I live right now. I do not have friends here, did not grow up even near here. My dad moved here 10, 15 years ago. And then I met my wife. So that's why I'm here. And along the road, so many stories. But yeah, we all end up in a certain place for a certain reason. I love the backstory. So I appreciate you sharing all that. And
I'll just tell you one little thing that's kind of funny. The woman who wrote this, she's Mormon, mother of 5. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how can a parent of 5 kids possibly write a book? And I'm like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. But she published with Clean Teen. So there's no drinking, no smoking, no cussing, no kissing, no intimate contact of any kind. And I'm like, how do you write what is left? How do you
What's human about this book?
And I mean, I'm like, more power to you. I'm like, I could not.
Do you remember the title?
I do not. It's in the other room, but
when Mike throws it to me in a message here, whenever he does, I'll throw it to anybody asking. Timothy's asking, and Ithra wants to read it too.
Like I said, the book was well written. There's nothing. I went in with the whole thing of I am going to just ridicule her writing, and I was like, this is not bad. There's nothing wrong with this writing. The topic is terrible, but the writing itself was just fine. So
I love that because there's so many different. So she's published.
Yeah.
Okay. So. All right. Not usually in traditionally published books do we get those like severe differences in books and topics, but especially in the indie realm, we get so many different kinds of themes and plot points and characters and personalities. It's so much fun, and that's what really drew me into talk to indie authors, and eventually I hope I am one.
Yeah. Oh, you'll get there. It
just I have that. I haven't been able to access it in a while. The kids are like, I want chocolate milk. I'm like, okay. So this is not the final installment. You said it is going to be a 7-book series. And that's, I have to say, I commend anybody that is willing to do something like that because, well, I think of myself in these situations, and to think ahead more than just like a paragraph scares me. So 7 books, I find that highly impressive.
Well, I have to answer Tim McKay here. Yes, the humor does bleed through in the book.
That's what. Okay, I was reading to make sure I had the right context. You're a lot faster than me.
So when I saw the hovering over the buy button, I was like, I was motivated.
I love it. I love it. So the question was, and this is for me because I know you've already read, how much of the humor makes it into your book? So I didn't hear your answer. How much does?
It does. So when I wrote Grammy, I take personality tests all the time. And every time I am an INTJ, which means I'm introverted, intuitive, I'm thinking, not feeling, and I am judging, not perceiving. And let me tell you, I am judging. I know this to be a fact. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take that personality because I saw an article that was on everyone's blog in like 2015 saying that INTJs cannot be heroes of a story. They don't have the makeup. They said, but they do make great characters, for instance, and they listed Voldemort, Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, Magneto, and my personal favorite, Hannibal freaking Lecter.
Oh, you're eating people's
and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make an INTJ, and he's going to be the hero. And then I started writing, and I'm like, that's really hard to do. He's an introvert. He doesn't like people. I don't know how you get to be the hero.
He likes the taste of them.
So that's when I said, you know what? He's going to be a kind of a bumbling. He's going to be early 20s. He's going to make poor decisions, but he's going to know he's right, and he's going to charge through. And then, what now?
So I have to say, because I've read like at this point, because I'm a slow reader, like 78% of book one, and the humor does come through, and I like the way that it does, because it's not what you're seeing on this live. It's more based in that, but it's sarcasm. Like Grommy is the kind of, at first he's the student, and you enter into this really funny situation where he doesn't necessarily like his teacher. I can't remember the name of the teacher, but
Boswin.
Yeah, and all of these shape changing. Well, is that the right word for it?
I went back and forth. I used anamorphine, shape changing, transformation. Yeah, I got tired of using the same word over and over, so I'm like, let's use synonyms.
Well, he changes into these awesome and sometimes hilarious animals. One of my favorites, which you do a lot, is the owl, because I mean, think of an owl, just majestic. He can kind of like silently do what the heck he wants, and it fits the character perfectly. So yes, it does make it in the book, and I'm speaking from personal reading, and it's great. It's fun, and it's an adventure. You're never in the same spot for too long. There's relationships that are fun, and Tim McKay bought.
Nice. Awesome.
You will not be unsatisfied. I promise. It's great.
So, Matt, I have to tell you, of everything I've written, my absolute favorite scene is in chapter 5 of book 1, when Grommy and his brother go to the mead hall.
That strikes a bell. It's been such a long time since I've been that shallow into the book, but
it just, I mean, I was just like, is he really? Yes, he is. Is this going? And just one thing after another happens, and it's just calamity. And it was just so much fun to write. I mean, I was laughing when I finished that. I was like, yes, this, I can stop now as a happy man. I've written this scene.
So what I usually do when that happens to me is I'll go through and like read the first paragraph of a chapter. It usually comes back to me. When it does, I'll relate to you on that. I feel bad that I don't remember that. But it's been a while since I've been there.
So Tim McKay, chapter 5, the mead hall, my absolute favorite chapter. It captures Grommy perfectly.
Right. I love that. And you only get that from author interviews. You know, you read Stephen King, and you know, maybe on ABC when he feels like it, you know, we'll go out and have an interview. Very dry mouth. Sorry. And I love that about what I do, because I get to know those things before reading or right after reading, and it makes that experience a whole nother level up, like 10 levels up for real. Okay, so it's going to be a 7-book series. That's awesome too, because that has me as a reader excited. Fans of your series will be like, I cannot believe I get to have 3 more books to look forward to.
So, I do want to mention for Desperate Dispatches, a couple booktubers, Nico and Andrew Wizardly Reads, they may actually show up in one of the novellas.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and Nico knows about it, but Andrew, he walked away like right as I typed, by the way, you guys, and so he had to go help with his daughter or something. Mm-hmm. And he never gave any indication that he read that. So as far as I know, he doesn't know that he's going to be in the book. But it's just kind of back and forth between him and Nico. Just kind of from what I see of their friendship, I'm represented it in the book.
Yeah.
Ambrose is very high strung. Nico is kind of shut up, you're stupid.
Yeah, I like both of their channels. I do. Yeah. And they do have that funny chemistry, kind of a friendship. They get along wonderfully too. And they have actually that funny side, and then they've got the critical side that I also like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But Nico was the first that I knew about that talks about your books.
Yep. Oh, I was shaking in my boots when I heard, no, because I think it was Jim Wilborn. He'd posted on Discord. He's like, he only gave my book a 3 out of 5, but I learned more in 8 minutes of how to write a good book than I had learned in years, or something. I think I'm attributing that right. Bad memory, but
Jim is a very smart guy.
So when Nico's like, "Hey, I'm going to be reviewing your book," I was like, "Oh no!" I'm like, I didn't say. I was like, he has the power to make me stop writing. If he says, this is a 2, it's terrible. I'm like, oh my god. I mean, I was so stressed. And
Look,
why? I mean, now I know
think
that if
I
he
don't
didn't
think
like it, he'd do it privately and not do a video, but I didn't know that then. So I was like sweating bullets, and then he's like, "Oh, he likes it."
he
Oh,
loved it.
and I just,
And he brought up the same book series that it reminded me of at first, and that was Animorphs. I grew up in the '90s, so of course it did. Yeah, and he's a really nice guy, but he's also honest. So I
yeah,
understand that
oh,
to a point. But I don't think I think if any booktuber, so I can understand as an author that maybe a review, which is a way of somebody critiquing me,
yeah,
is intimidating. But Mike, I know you pretty well now. I don't think anybody has that ability over you
no,
to stop you from writing. You're the
no.
man.
Catholic school kid. So now, I mean, that was like he was one of the first one or two. So I mean, then I was nervous. Now, I mean, I've had 2 booktubers who actually gave my book a 3, and I'm fine with that. And they're like, "This is what I didn't like," and I'm like, "You know what? Fair. If that's what you're looking for, then that is fair. So I don't mind as long as it's fair criticism, and they're like, "This is what didn't work." I'm perfectly fine. I mean,
And if you're able to decipher that, that's another skill to decipher. Is this person my intended audience? If it is, do they have the experience with reading and also talking about the ups or pros and cons of a book as far as how it's written? Do they have those qualifications? And to take how seriously, I've seen some really bad, like, so this person that reads romantasy, reads a grimdark book. Look, I know that score she's going to give it,
yeah,
or he. So that's just not the intended audience. And they'll still like, oh, I read it through like 2 pages and I didn't like it, so I'm going to give it a 1. I just don't think that's fair. There's
right,
those out there though.
yeah. So you're
So
falling behind in the questions, by the way.
hey, that's all good. We're here for as long as we need to be. I love talking to you, man.
Okay.
Okay, so talk about your cover artist and anybody else, like your editor, that was part of this process with you.
So my cover artist, and I'm so happy to have him, Dmitry Yahovsky. He's originally Belarusian. I always ask people, I was like, he's Belarusian. He married a Dutch wife. They live in Poland, and they had a child. What does this make the child? And other than European, I don't know.
Yeah, very much so.
So, but I found him, one of my friends at work who does play D&D. They finished their campaign, so they went to commemorate it. So they had a D&D artist draw the final battle scene. And he's like, you should look for this guy for like your cover for your book. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll look it up. He charges me $120 for a cover.
Oh my goodness.
You can see them behind me. I'm very subtle with all 4 books behind me here, and then over here as well, very subtle. So he does all the art. Love it. So he if you want to contact him, it's DN, the letter N, not ampersand, DND Art Store at Etsy.
Oh, okay. And
my God, he texted me a month or so ago. He said that one of his drawings was featured on Nerd of the Rings, which is a podcast with close to 1 million followers. And he just told me, because I had him do a couple drawings for me. He's like, sorry I'm late, but I just got invited to the largest Tolkien conference in the world as a guest speaker.
Oh my!
And I'm a guest artist, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, let me get all my art, because you're going to explode, and then you're going to charge way more.
For those who don't know, to get a good cover for $120 is
crazy,
very cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome though, because he did do a wonderful job.
So, and I can't sing Dimitri's praises enough. I'm going to see if I can't get him on the show, but they're 6 hours different, so it'll probably be a Saturday show or something. But
where's he at?
He's in Poland now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. I've had him. When I first was talking to him, he's like, hey, Mike, a prestigious online art gallery, which I don't know what those words mean when you string them together. What's a prestigious online art? But anyway, because they've picked me up So I can now sell my paintings there. And I looked there, and all the paintings that he's selling for $500 were now selling for $2,000.
Wow, good
And
for
I was
him,
like,
man.
well, I mean, you can mark them up, that's fine, but will anyone buy it? But I was like, you know what? Just in case, I know the book covers for all 7 of my books. Can you do them all? So I have all 7 books. They're all done by him.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'm always like, get as much as I can, as fast as I can, because sooner or later he's going to be discovered. And I kind of don't want to tell people about him, but then I kind of feel honor bound to do so. So,
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think that he did a wonderful service for you. So to talk about him is absolutely something I think that an illustrator would earn. E.L. Montague says, quick question. Who drew your maps?
So it is an international team. So Dimitri is originally from Belarus, and Theodore Andrei, he is from Romania, and it's TA Maps. He was on Fiverr. He's not anymore. So the email is in the back of my book in the acknowledgments, but I'll give it to you. You can post it, or I'll put it on my website if nothing else. But yeah,
Absolutely.
He is amazing when he did it. And the first Comic-Con I went to was Awesome Con in Washington, D.C., and I had the map that he'd drawn. I had the retractable banner behind me. So I'm like, if you like maps, come see me, because, and a woman stopped by and she said, I just want to compliment you. That map is wonderful. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. I didn't do it. It was, Theodore. She's like, I work for National Geographic.
Oh, wow.
And so I texted him, or afterwards I emailed and said, hey, by the way, somebody from National Geographic liked your map. He's like, oh, Mike, sorry, I couldn't type for 10 minutes. I was jumping up and down. I mean, he was just thrilled.
Can you imagine? Of course he was.
So
Ithra wanted to know the name of your series real quick.
Protectors of Pratani.
Protectors of Pratani. I like that name too, Pratani. It just comes out easy.
So Pratani actually came from, because, I'm chemist by training, so I like to do research. I do way too much research for my book, but Pratani was written in the book by Pythias, a Greek sailor, like in the 300 BC, where he went around Spain and he went to the land talked to the Bretons, who were in the lands of the Brittany, and that is the first written time that island is ever written, at least in what exists now. And it was a Greek sailor who met him and said they called themselves the Bretons. Now they're the Britons, so the P became a B, but Brittany became Britain. But yeah,
lots of history behind it.
I mean, when you get to the demon summoners, they're actually speaking in Etruscan, because I was like, I want this language to feel like it's an actual language and not just random words thrown in together. So I actually found an English to Etruscan dictionary.
Wow.
So I actually, so those
Where does Etruscan come from?
They were the people that the Romans beat early off. So like Tuscany was Etruscan, is Tuscany, so drop the E. So that's where they were. And they're a weird civilization, and people always ask, were they more Roman? Were they more Greek? And the answer is like, yes. And then they were their own kind of thing, but then they got defeated by the Romans like everyone else. So,
yeah.
But like Pompeii was a Etruscan city. Any city that ended with II was an Etruscan city. Naples today, that was new city that they founded after they took it from the Etruscans. So
didn't know that.
So a lot of Italian cities are actually Etruscan cities that you just don't know about because Romans.
Sure.
And when you have an empire for 1,000 years, that kind of happens. Everybody else sort of fades to black.
I have to say, I love Roman history. I just haven't gotten that deep into it. So, oh my goodness, I just had a brilliant thought, and then it just does what it usually does to me and escapes me. I think I'll come back to it if I find it. Huh?
It was meant to be free, so it just went away.
So thank you for sharing the people that you've had this. Is there anybody else you use an editor? Do you edit?
Yes. Oh God, no. So Roe Bushy, my partner in crime on our channel, he's also an editor. He does my line edit. Shut up. Okay, go play in traffic. Sorry. So Roe,
please don't.
He doesn't listen to me. No one listens to me. No. So Roa does my line edits, and I love it because as an author, he will come back and be like, this makes absolutely no sense. 2 pages ago, you said this, and so he line edits and he tells me, the things that I miss. He's kind of doing double duty, and I'm not paying double duty. This is a common theme with Mike. He gets more than he gives in the writing process. So I do Roe, and then
he's totally fine, Mike. I promise. Don't stress about it, man. I was interviewing Adrian Tchaikovsky the other day, and snow prevented the babysitter from getting my kids. Dude, Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
And my kids are screaming. I had to pause and like wait for my kids to stop for like 45 seconds. So it's not a thing.
So then after I do that, I use 2 proofreaders because after I use Catherine D. Graham. It's my first proofreader, who again I'm sure you've heard of, you've talked to.
I have.
And she will do, since she's an author, she will also say like, hey, continuity thing here. She's like, I know I'm just supposed to be proofreading, but and so she catches little things like that. And then when I get my So when I get my edits back, every time I'm like, I look at the edits and I'm like, it is. You could argue that I'm not even monolingual with the amount of errors in this text. I am such a sloppy writer. I mean, Roe did one. I had over 2,000 errors.
So you're definitely not alone on that. I would fit right in there with you with that. So,
and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know English. That's the only thing I can say from this, or I don't know it well. Come here. People want to see you. Come here.
Let's see that beautiful face. Oh, look at him. He's got experience on him.
Yeah, and
he's a kisser.
Oh, yes. I get my face exfoliated every day.
What's his name?
Shadow.
Dude, I had a Shadow before.
He is actually also in Desperate Dispatches, the one with the dog, and every time when he misbehaves, that has happened in my life. He was the easiest character to write.
It's like all I got to do is pull up those memories that I'm like, no, and just talk about them, and people will think those are lovely, funny. It wasn't like that when it happened, but I'm going to tell about it.
Yes, he's probably killed about 30 possums in his life.
For him, that saved your trash can.
Well, and he brings them in and leaves them on the front room carpet for me every time. So yeah,
don't leave them there for long because they get gas and they smell.
Well, it's everything. I'm like, I'm about to leave for work. No, I'm not. I have a dead possum carcass I must take care of.
You call into work. I don't know what I'm calling, and I'm not sick. I have dead possum on my floor.
And the problem is, if I show any interest at it at all, then Shadow wants to pick it up like I have a toy chase me. And I'm like, I do not want to chase this dog because he has a dead animal running around in my house. This is not what I need to be doing on a Monday morning.
He's like, Dad, I found the best toy ever. At first, it was a little noisy, and then it shut up.
Yeah, yeah. That's Shadow.
Shadow, you're the man. Hell yeah, rough.
That's why I tell him
guy.
To play in traffic, but he does not listen.
This is the kind of sarcasm I'm talking about that's in the book. Absolutely. So what are you working on right now? What are you kind of working on now? And what is next for Mr. Mike Mollman?
So I want to finish because I told you Catherine D. Graham is my proofreader. She's the first of 2 because after she gives it back, I make changes.
Please do.
The second one is Melissa Stone, who's also in the Discord servers. And if I was, won the lottery and I could afford any editor in the world, any proofreader, I would pick Melissa Stone. She is awesome.
She's got one of those names that I feel like I've seen in a movie.
I've seen her on chats and whatnot. Absolutely wonderful. She fixes things. I tend to, when I write, I always use, he managed to rise from the chair, which is boring. And then it just becomes, he rises from the chair, because you don't need managed to. You're just, adding words and not, you're clogging things up. And I try to fix that. I fix that as much as I can. And then she will say like, nope, you missed one here. And she will fix it. I'm like, oh, thank God. I'm like, because I when I first start writing, it's like I don't like my writing. I'll have to rewrite it again because this is terrible, and I'm learning the things that I'm doing that are really annoying, like the word just. Apparently, I had a little love affair with just, and I use it like 8 times per page. So
Mine is very or especially or yeah, those two especially.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. You just heard it in the most honest way.
So
I didn't know that until I wrote, and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, who uses these words that much? Matthew. For those who don't know, that's my government name.
So and in this book, in the dedication, I thanked the 2 guys who I work with who are chemists, because the one, he has appointed himself as my agent of chaos, and he's the one I literally went to him. I was like, Jeff, imagine that you are the goddess of the pixies. Now, how would you respond to? And he, without missing me, like, okay, well then this is obvious, And I mean, he's the only person in my life who I can say, you're a pixie princess. This has happened. How do you react? And he'll be like, okay. And Shadow is not a good dog. That's a lie, El Montague. So I actually thanked him in my dedication. And then Wyatt is Dr. Wyatt Johnson. He is actually my alpha reader. And the nice thing about that is he hates fantasy, which is not nice. It's a character defect of his. But anyway, it means when he reads it, he's like, he'll come back smiling. He'll be like, I found a plot hole. And he's so happy. And I pay him, I buy him the $6 meal at Wendy's as his payment for being my alpha reader. And we sit there and he's just like, let's go through all the things I found wrong with this.
Well, I'm eating my junior bacon.
I'm like, let's do it, because you know what? $6, you can't beat that for editing.
No. That's amazing.
But he hates fantasy, and he always tells me, he's like, I want you to go back to that sci-fi novel. I really like that. You need to publish that. And I'm like, I will. Just let me finish becoming a drip. Just let me finish to speak with. Just let me. So I'm like, okay, Wyatt.
He's after a free meal.
Or I'm going to go to it now. As soon as Desperate Dispatches is out, I'll do it. And I had to tell him, I was like, so to get to the question you asked me, I'll get there. I swear.
You're good.
What I'm doing right now is I've had several people say, you mentioned elves, you mentioned pixies, but they never occur in your story. Catherine, oh my God, your editing service, you should charge more. Other people, not me. Keep me at the same rate, but everybody else should charge more.
We've talked about you like a baker's dozen times. Yeah. That's 13.
So I'm writing a novella. So there's 5 elder races that all decide to leave Protani and let the humans grow up as a species or annihilate themselves. And so the centaurs ended up not leaving, and you figure out why in book 2. But and people were asking about that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a novella about each of the 5 races. And then when they're done, I'll put them up and sell them for like 99 cents. And then when I get all of them done, I'll put them together in a book, and they'll just be like short tales or something. So the one I'm working on now, and I got Dimitri to draw this for me. This is the Pixies. Is that on there? So that is a pixie riding a dragonfly, and the other one is on a stag beetle.
It's so good.
And behind that's Durdle Door behind it, which is an actual feature in southern coast of England. So that's
research.
I literally go, I'm like, what are the cool places in England that I want to visit? Okay, they're going to be in my book now. I get him to draw this, and I get a cool picture of Durdle Door with pixies riding insects. Because when he drew my ostrich and the druid and the dog Shadow, like the ostrich and the dog are trying to fight, and the druid is like, trying to keep them apart.
Yeah.
Every time I look at that, I laugh. So yeah, love Dimitri's work.
It's fun. It's creative. It's when you think about it, it's I would love to see a pixie riding a dragonfly. That would make my day. So I get it.
So, and I stole this from Roe with his permission, because his next book coming out is about sprites, and he has it in there. And when he told me this, I just like, yes, my life is complete now. He has sprites who are mounted on dragonflies, and they're jousting over top of flower bed.
Yeah,
I'm like, yes, I am there for that all day, every day. And so I was like, that's such creative. I'm so jealous. I'd love to use that, but it's your idea. He's like, no, go ahead, use it. So I was like, okay. So then I changed it up, and I was like, stag beetles look kind of scary. Let's put one on that.
Dung beetles too. They're pretty brave. They eat dung. But no, I think that, and I've talked to Ro a couple times. He's one of those guys that's very respectful. He's smart. He's fun to talk with. And if you should check out Bald&Balding, his YouTube channel. He runs with Ro. And it's really cool. They've got good chemistry. They've got a lot of they go to a lot of conventions. And they bring on these authors that talk about their book. He's doing work over there.
So he is smooth and polished. I will tell you, he has more hair than me, but he's also older. So, I can at least be happy about one thing. But yeah, he actually said he's going to try to pop on tonight and say hi, but he said 9:00 is his bedtime. So I don't think he made it, but it's okay.
No, it's all good. He can watch the replay. He's snoozing right now.
Oh, you know what? I was just going to say we can talk bad about him so he won't see it, but you're right. The replay. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Guess I have to be nice.
I love it. That's the kind of chemistry I'm talking about. Excuse me. Ithra wants to know, what is the difference between an alpha and a beta reader?
So if you put 10 writers in the room and you ask them their process, you'll get 16 processes because everything's a little different. For me, I abuse my readers. My first draft, that horrible vomit draft that is terrible and everyone knows it's terrible, that's what I give to my alpha reader. And I'm like, fix the plot holes now. I'm very much if the plot is not there, which is why Joe Abercrombie, love the characters, hate the books, because there is just zero plot. There is no plot anywhere to be found. And it just drives me nuts. So for me, do the plot, and then when you're doing the plot, that's when I'm like, and this happens next, and characters like, no, I would never do that. And so you're like, okay, we'll go on this tangent then, but we have to come back, So that's so first draft is I do that, then I give it to the alpha reader, which is Wyatt. He gives it back, I fix it, and then I go through a whole separate time, and I try to, because when I'm writing the first draft, I'll be like, the Beard of Darkness, he's going to be this flippant, very, happy-go-lucky sort of guy. And then 9 chapters later, I'm like, ooh, what if I made him really dark and kind of scary here? So, I'll have that, and I'll be like, okay, I can't have both. I have to pick. But, I'm trying out different personalities as I'm writing. So the first draft, I'm like, don't worry about the personalities. They're going to be, it's Sybil all over again with multiple personalities, everybody. But, I'll iron out what I want them to actually be like, what they, what speaks to me as being real. So after I do that, then I give it to Ro, and he corrects it in, like I said, 2,000 or more corrections. And I get back like, nope, I'm not even monolingual.
I haven't even, this is my birth language, people, and I don't know it yet.
Yeah, exactly. So then I fix all that. And then the one thing I will tell you should do, absolutely you should do. Andrew Meredith talked about when you're editing yourself, if you keep it all the same, you'll see like the first and the last, you won't see the first and last word on the line. You'll just assume what it is, and you'll assume a lot. But if you change the font size, something so that it's not set the same way on the page, you'll notice more. And even better than that is there's a service I use. I'm sure I could get it for free, but I'm too lazy to look. It's called Edit Out Loud. It's $30 a year. You load up, you put your chapters on there, and you can listen to it. Now it's like a Google Maps sort of voice, so it's not terrible, but it's not robotic, but it's not a real human, but it's good enough. Mm-hmm. And I immersion edit, if that's a thing. So I listen to it, and then I just follow along, and I'd be like, no one talks that way. Okay.
What's the name of the site?
Edit Out Loud. It's $30 a year. I'm sure you can do it for free. I'm sure Microsoft Word has gotten better, and you can probably do it in Microsoft Word, but I'm not going to learn. It's $30 a year. I'm just going to just pay it and not.
Yeah, that's nothing.
But I'm sure if you do voice whatever for Microsoft Word, I'm sure it's gotten good enough now. You can do that for free, but I'm not going to spend that time. I got other things to do.
It's really not. So I don't know. You might be right, but not for free. Probably that's an actual pretty technical thing.
However you do it, I mean, I think Andrew Meredith, he'd said that either he or his wife reads it out loud. I think he reads it out loud to his wife, and then she's, but you have to hear it. It's a different way of processing it, and you will catch so many more errors. Daniel knows.
I read everything out. Yep.
And the other thing I do that actually works is when I'm stuck, like with a scene like this doesn't work, I need something else. Rose's name is Rosaire. It's French. Because actually in To Speak with Elders, one of the bad guys in my book I had named Rosaire. And I was like, okay, Ro, before you edit this book, I picked this name out before I knew you. I am not writing anything about your personality, but my bad guy's named Rosaire. It's spelled differently, but you know. And he's like, okay, good to know.
It's like, wait till you see what I've done with this character, Ro.
So, but the other thing is I will actually print it out like a chapter if I'm having trouble, and I'll go to the library because driving home from work, I pass the library, so I'll just stop. I'm like, I will sit here for an hour. If I don't want to edit, that's fine, but I'm sitting here for an hour, and the only thing I have in front of me is the paper and a pen. So, you know, and then I just, again, because I'm writing, somehow when the scene is not working, I have to make big changes. I don't like doing it on the computer because if I delete, it's gone forever. If it's on paper, I can just cross it out and I can still remember what it is. So I definitely, if a scene's not working, I'm going to be at the library and I'm going to be, you know, doing that. I've actually started doing that at Taco Bell on lunch hours now, which gives me weird looks, but you know.
So alpha reading is like the first step to reading an author's book that does huge changes, makes sure everything's cohesive, the continuity works, the characters are aligned from page one when you hear about them to the last page. It's a very important job, and not just anybody can do an alpha reading.
Right. I was going to say, you have to have a lot of trust in your alpha reader because, I mean, I've had people read it and they've been rubber stamps and, oh, it's great. It's perfect. No changes. And I'm like, well, you don't know it. I think you're like 16 IQ points lower now because there's obvious errors.
Why are you lying?
And then there are people who are they'll get fixated on one thing and they'll just keep, you know, drilling. And I'm like, okay, no one cares.
Yeah, point taken.
So I was like, thank you, but I'm going to do it my way. So you alpha readers, they're the hardest, I would say. I have one because, like I said, he is willing to, and I just wish he wasn't so gleeful when he's like, I found a plot hole. I mean, he's just so happy, and I'm like,
that's pretty annoying, probably.
I'm like, okay, but it's good for me. Tell me what it is. And again, I'm paying him $6, so. I can't argue. I can't complain, but I still will.
Whether you're an alpha reader or a beta reader, one thing I do know that you can make those constructive suggestions, but if you start going into what that author should do differently or how to do it differently, you're probably not going to be the person.
The one thing that I read somewhere, I don't know where now, but they said if a person is hitting one specific thing, they more likely are wrong and it's just a them thing. But if they'll just like, you know, this chapter just feels off, but I can't tell you why, you know, believe that because, you know, it's usually not one specific thing. I mean, if it's a spelling error, then it is, but, you know, otherwise. So if they're like, I'm not sure why, but, you know, chapter 7 just doesn't feel right to me, then I would go back and be, okay, let's see what he's thinking, you know, read it again and try. But if they're like, no, you need to have you do not have a love interest. You need to have a better love, and I'm just like, stop.
Whoa. Yeah,
I'm like,
whoa.
okay, again, thank you for your time. I will write my book my way though. Thank you.
I love it. So I've never asked this question before, but I think it's very valuable to you to let us know this and everybody watching and who will watch in the future, because you're going to come across of varying amounts of people that do different things, booktubers, people who love to arc read, interviewers, stuff like that. Are there any of those that you're particularly looking for at the moment?
So I am particularly bad at launching books. My first book I published on the 4th of July because I finished editing it. I'm like, I can upload. I'm a published author. And right after I did that, I called my brother and I doubled the number of people in the world who knew that I had published a book. because I'd done absolutely nothing. So literally, I was like, "Look on, is it on Amazon? Is it on? Can you see it?" And
Did
so
they lie?
there were 2 of us in the world who knew that it was published. That's how I launched my first book.
I feel like that excitement would be hard to contain. I get it.
So this is the first time I actually did a pre-order. But I did. I'm glad you asked this, because I do want to say, anyone in the comments, if you want a reader's copy, just hit me up. I will send you the ebook. The physical books I won't get them for a little while because of computer problems. But if you want the ebook of it, just let me know.
Book 4.
I'll happily send it. Yes, I'll send you all 4 if you want them. I currently have them for 99 cents on Amazon, so that's 35 cents a sale. I can forego that. It will not crush me.
I just wanted to make sure that I was covering everything that you're looking for.
I do appreciate that. Yes, anybody, if you want it, I think my link tree is in the description. Just hit me up there your favorite way, and I will send you a copy.
There it is. Awesome. So, yeah, take that advantage, guys, if you want to help him on his journey or be a part of it or anything. I mean, it's so much fun. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I have to say, just for the sake of people knowing the kind of guy you are, like, I think, well, I know Mike was the second author I reached out to see if he was looking for people like that. I had just started thinking about my YouTube channel and started it. I reached out to Alec Hudson and then Mike, and man, ever since, just been a really good friend. So during those, specified jobs or hobbies, whatever you do it for, you find wonderful friendships, and it's been a really cool experience.
So I will tell you, that's why we started Bald&Balding, was because I wanted to actually get to know other writers. Ro and I talked, like, look, we're never going to make money, or at least if we do, it's going to be, basically a free lunch at Wendy's. About all, I was like, so it's not for the money, it's for the connections that you make with other people and talking to other authors. And just, we didn't even talk about Spiffbo, but my God, that was the biggest thing that happened last year to me. Yeah. Because of Spiffbo, I got onto Twitter. Because of Twitter, I saw you. I started doing more booktubers. Now I have my own channel. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a winner from Spiffbo, because I am so much more engaged in the community now than I was, and I did not even know there was a community.
Yeah.
So
being a part of that community helps with when you launch a book or anything like that. If you're an author and you're not part of this community that helps each other out, that cheers everybody on, that wants to see you succeed and rise to the top together, you're missing out on a tool that could be used in a very influential way.
Yeah. So I'm on Ro all the time. You need to get on Twitter. I know you don't like Twitter. Nobody likes Twitter, but you need to be on there. You need to talk to booktubers, maybe even get on a Discord server. There are connections to be had, and you're not going to get it if you sit at home and watch Netflix.
You're doing yourself a disservice at that point. And I'll tell you, that's another main reason I started my YouTube channel. It's like, okay, I really enjoy this reading thing. And boy, I think I'd be good at the writing thing as well. But if I just throw out a book and publish it without people knowing about it, well, we know how that's going to go. Nobody's going to know about it. So to learn that along the process is something that's quite valuable. So where can people go to pre-order your, to order your series and pre-order the 4th book? And when will it be dropping?
So the book dropped today. So you can go on Amazon and you can get all 4 books. The first 3 books excuse me, I set to 99 cents for the month of December. And then I was like, well, it seems stupid to raise them back up just to lower them when I published my book, because I was going to publish, January 1st or 2nd or 3rd or 4th, and it finally ended up being the 22nd. So I guess for February, I'm going to move the prices back up. But for the rest of this month, the first 3 books are 99 cents each. Or like I said, if you want a reader copy, just contact me and you get it for free. I am happy either way. I tell people that for my job, I should be retiring in 3.5 years. And
that's special.
My goal for writing is I just want it to pay for itself. I don't want to get rich. I don't I don't want to be like picked out of a crowd or like walking down the street. So I go, oh my God, that's Mike Mollman. That is like way too famous. Don't want that. I'll do, George J.R.R. Martin on you and just stop writing if you start doing that to me. But
Promises that'll never be like fully ever like, yeah, I really feel like I will, but probably not.
so I mean, I like my stories. Some people have read them and they've liked them. Some people not so much. That's fine. But I just want my story to get out there. I think it's entertaining, and I'd like for people to read it. I don't have other aspirational goals other than that. I mean, the next time I have a book, I will go to Spiffbo and I will get cut in the first round. But that's fine, because again, it's all about making connections. It's not, I mean, the winner gets a magic wand, like Harry Potter magic wand, so it's not about the prize. It's about, connections. And so like I said, I've won Spiffbo because I did that.
That's a great mindset to have. So when the success comes along, you're taken with it. And Mike, I believe that'll happen with you, my friend. Man, this has been fun. I like doing these book launches because, and I've only done one. No, I've done 2 other ones, but they're fun in a couple ways because we've done an interview on this channel, but there's always something else that I haven't necessarily asked you or thought to kind of fill myself in with and be curious about. And that this helps with that. Not only that, we get to talk about what's coming next and telling everybody where to pre-order and all that fun stuff. Because when I did look at the link, it still does say pre-order. I don't know why. It does. I'll double check after this and I'll send you a message. But
and I'll double check myself. But yeah.
Okay, good. So the YouTube thing, of course, that I have to say, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. That helps the channel grow, which also helps what's the word am I looking for? The authors that I talk with get that exposure as well. Yeah. Tomorrow, I will be talking with Justin Lee Anderson. He has written a couple books, and he started off as an indie author, and Orbit Books picked him up. That's his U.S. publisher. As far as the other side to that, I'm not sure. I'll have to do some more research. I'll talk about it tomorrow. But that'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I'll see you guys then. Mike, thank you so much, man, for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. You're a blessing to the community.
Thank you. So another thing I have to shout out, because my wife is not only a huge supporter of what I do, and you have to have that support system. Mike is displaying on his lovely mannequin. And if you don't know the story behind the mannequin, check out me and Mike's interview last time. But he's wearing my wife's shirt that she made. And you can also find the link for that shirt in the description. So until next time, which will be precisely at 3 p.m. tomorrow, I will see you then. Mike, thanks so much again. For you guys that here alive and we're watching the future, thank you too. Good night, y'all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.